What's going on, my babies? Welcome back to another episode of the Spiritual Word. As always, I apologize for any noises in the background in advance. And before I start, I'd like to start these off with a disclaimer by stating that these are for entertainment purposes only. Always do your own research to come to your own conclusions, to have your own answers, to make your own decisions. And I believe in your ability to be your own person and to do so. And if you're a returning baby, thanks for tuning in and tapping in. If you're new, welcome. I call my viewers or the people who listen to the podcast, I call you guys my babies because I feel that's an endearing term. And anyways, I have an audio version of the podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, and I have a video version of the podcast on YouTube. They're both named The Spiritual Word. I'm your host, Jackie. I upload Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, except for the last week of every month. That's my break week. And I think that's it for now. So, if you're returning, you know that we're reading Start Where You Are by Pema Trojan. And if you're new, this is the book that we're currently reading. It's not a huge book. And I'm basically reading it chapter by chapter so that we can basically just hear this story together and I guess kind of like bounce off. One, you get to listen to this book. Two, you get to listen to this book for free. And three, I think that it's a very helpful book to read. And also, I don't know, I like the community that I can read with you. You know what I mean? Like, if you have this book, we can read it together. You can just follow along as I mess up all of my words. So, anyways, we're on chapter 5, and the name of this chapter is Poison as Medicine, which is a very interesting title. But anyway, before I start, I want to see how long this is. Number 5. It's one of the longer chapters. Hopefully this doesn't take me an hour, but if it does, I hope that you stick around for it, you know? Anyways, let's get started. With the slogans, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue, we begin to enter the teachings on relative bodhicitta, the teachings on how to awaken compassion. We have so far been attempting to establish a ground of all the experiences is very spacious, not as solid as we tend to make it. We don't have to make such a big deal about ourselves, about ourselves, our enemies, our lovers, the whole show. This emphasis on gentleness is the pith instruction on how to reconnect with openness and freshness in our lives, how to liberate ourselves from a small world of ego. We'll keep coming back to this essence of freshness and openness and open space and not making such a big deal because we are now about to get into the real messy stuff. In this Buddhist teaching, this messy stuff is called klesha, which means poison, boiling it down to the simplest possible formula. There's 3 main poisons: passion, aggression, and ignorance. We could talk about these in different ways. For example, craving, aversion, and couldn't care less. Addictions of all kinds come under the categories of craving, which is wanting, and wanting feelings. I don't know why it's there 3 times. Which is wanting feelings. That could be, that we have some kind of resolution. Aversion, an encompass of violence, rage, hatred, and negativity of all kinds, as well as garden variety irritation. And ignorance, nowadays it's usually called denial. That was deep. The pith instruction of all Buddhist teachings, and most explicitly of the Lojong teachings, is whatever you do, don't try to make these unwanted feelings go away. It's an unusual thought. It's not habitual tendencies to let these feelings hang around. Our tendencies is definitely to try to make those things go away. People and situations in our lives are always triggering our passions, aggressions, and ignorance. And a good old innocent cup of coffee triggers some people's cravings. They are addicted to it. It represents a comfort and all the good things in life. If they can't get over it, their life is a wreck. Other people have an elaborate storyline about why it's bad for you, and they have aversions and support groups. Plenty of other people couldn't care less about a cup of coffee. It doesn't mean much to them. And there is the good old Mortimer, the person who is sitting next to you in the meditation hall, or perhaps someone who works in your office. Some people are lusting when they see this Mortimer. He looks wonderful to them. A lot of their discursive thoughts is taken up with they'd hold on. I stumble so hard. Where was I? A lot of their discursive thoughts is taken up with what they'd like to do. What they'd like to do. Where is it? With Mortimer. A certain number of people hate him. They haven't even talked to him yet. But by the minute they saw him, they felt loathing. Some of us haven't noticed him, and we may never notice him. In fact, a few years from now, he might tell us that he was there, and we'll be surprised. So there are 3 things in which the slogan are called the 3 objects. One object is one we find pleasure. Another is one we find unpleasant. The third is a neutral. If the pleasant is a trigger for craving, if it's unpleasant, it's a trigger for aversion, and if it's neutral, it's a trigger for ignorance. Craving, aversion, ignorance are the 3 poisons. Craving. Do I have a pen in here? I don't think I have a pen in here. Craving, aversion, and ignorance. I need to remember that. Craving, aversion, ignorance. Craving, aversion, ignorance. Craving, aversion, ignorance. Okay. Sorry. Anyways, our experience would write the formula as the 3 objects, the 3 poisons, a lot of misery, or the 3 objects, the 3 poisons, and the 3 seeds of conclusion, bewilderment and pain. Because the more poisons arise, the bigger they get in our lives. The more they drive us crazy, they keep us from seeing the world as it is. They make us blind, deaf, and dumb. The world doesn't speak for itself because we're caught up in the storyline instead of feeling that there is a lot of space in which we could lead our lives as a child of illusion. We're robbing ourselves from letting the world speak for itself. You can just keep speaking to yourself so nothing speaks to you. 3 poisons are always trapping you in one way or another, imprisoning you and making your world really small. When you feel craving, you could sit on the edge of the Grand Canyon, but all you see is a piece of chocolate cake that you're craving. With aversion, you're sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and all you could hear is the angry words that you had said to someone years ago. With ignorance, you're sitting on the edge of Grand Canyon with a bag over your head. Each of these 3 poisons has the power to capture you so completely that you don't even perceive what's in front of you. Oh my gosh. Eek. I burped, but I almost threw up. Sorry, you didn't need to know that. Anyways, I'm a little too comfortable with you. That's my fault. Anyways, where was I? In this 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 seeds of virtue is really a peculiar idea. It turns conventional formula on its head, an impractical and in non-habitual way. It points to how the three poisons can be three seeds of becoming a child of illusion. How to step from this limiting world ego fixation. How to step out of the world's tunnel vision with the slogan, "This is an introduction to how the notion works." The Troglin practice will give you a very explicit method for working with this kind of Lojong logic. Or you could say big heart logic. There is nothing really wrong with passion or aggression or ignorance except that we take it so personally, therefore waste all that juicy stuff. The peacock eats poison when it makes the peacock eats poison, and that's what makes the colors of its tail so brilliant. That's the traditional image for this practice. Sorry if I'm extremely loud. Try not to be that loud. So the traditional image of this practice that the poisons become a great source of beauty, joy, poison becomes medicine. Whatever you do, don't try to make the poison go away, because you're trying to make them go away, you're losing the wealth along with your neurosis. All that messy stuff, which is your richness. But by saying this once is not going to convince you. If nothing else, however, it could be the cause to your wonder about these teachings and begin to be curious whether they could possibly be true, which might inspire you to find them for yourselves. The main point is that the Mortimer walks by and triggers your craving, your aversion, your ignorance, your jealousy, or your arrogance, and your feelings of worthiness. When Mortimer walks by and a feeling arises, this could be a little bell going off in your head, or a light bulb going on, where there is an opportunity to awaken your heart. There's an opportunity to ripen your bodhicitta, to reconnect with the sense of the soft spot. Because as a result, these three poisons shields usually come up. We react to the poisons by armoring our hearts. When the poisons arise, we encounter them with two main tactics. Step 1, Mortimer walks by. Step 2, Kelsha arises. It's hard to separate the first two. Step 3, we either act out or repress, which is to say either physical or mental attacks. Mortimer, or talk to yourself about what a jerk he is, or how we're going to get even with him, or else we repress those feelings. Act out and repressing are the main ways that we shield our hearts. The main way that we could never really connect. The main ways that we never really connect with our vulnerability and compassion, our sense of open, fresh dimension of our being. By acting out or oppressing, we invite suffering, bewilderment, or confusion to intensify. Drive all blames to the Mortimer. Someone once heard the slogan, "Drive all blame into one," and the thought was driven all blame into Juan. Whether you call him or her Juan or Juanita or Mortimer, the usual tactic is to either act out or repress. If Mortimer, Juan, or Juanita walks by and craving arises, you will try to get together by flirting or making advances. If aversion arises, you try to get revenge. You don't say the raw feelings. You don't hold your seat. You take a step further out, a step further and act out. Repressing could actually come under the category of ignorance. When Juanita or Juan or Mortimer, you could just shut down. Maybe you don't even want to touch them. Maybe you don't even want to touch what they remind you of. You just shut down. There's another common form of repression, which also has to do with guilt. One walks by, aversion arises, you act out, then you feel guilty about it. You don't think that you're a bad person to be hating one, so you repress. You are working with the basic Samantra Vipassana practice, and explicitly with the Toglen practice in the middle grounds, acting out and repressing. We're discovering how to hold our seats and feel completely with underneath all the storyline of wanting, not wanting, so forth. In terms, the three objects, the three poisons, the three seeds of virtue. When these poisons arise, the instruction is to drop the storyline, which means instead of acting out or repressing, use the situation as an opportunity to feel your heart, to feel the wound. Use it as an opportunity to touch that soft spot underneath all the craving or aversion or jealousy or feeling wretched about yourself. Underneath all the hopelessness and despair and depression, there is something extremely soft, which is called bodhicitta. When these things arise, train gradually and very gently without making it into a big deal. Begin to get the hang of the feeling. Begin to get the hang of feeling what's underneath the storyline. Feel the wounded heart, and underneath the addiction, the self-loathing or anger. If someone comes along and shoots an arrow into your heart, it's fruitless to stand there and to yell at the person. It would be much better to turn your attention to the fact that there is an arrow in your heart and relate to the wound. When we do that, the three poisons become the seed of how to make friends with ourselves. They give us a chance to work on patience and kindness. The chance not to give up on ourselves and to not act out or repress. They give us a chance to change our habits completely. This is what helps both ourselves and others. This instruction on how to turn unwanted circumstances into the path of enlightenment. By following it, we can transform all the messy stuff that we usually push away into the path of awakening, reconnecting with our soft hearts or clarity and our ability to open up further. That was chapter 5 and was called what was it? Poison as Medicine. Poison as Medicine. I really like that chapter. That was really beautiful. Anyway, you already know the drill. We're going to be reading chapter 6 tomorrow, and it's called Start Where You Are. That's so funny. With that being said, I hope that this was entertaining or, enjoyable in some way, shape, and form, or helpful, whichever. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in and tapping in. As always, I appreciate you for being here, my babies. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.